I'm Chris Markle. I'm the Northwest and Western Canada sales rep. I come into the industry with 29 years of print experience, and now I'm having a great time selling 3A products.
I'm Simon Philpott. I'm from the United Kingdom. I've been with 3A and its previous guises, Alcan and Alu Swiss, for nearly 25 years now. And yeah, a lot of experience working with the substrates that we manufacture.
Good deal. So, take it away. All right. Hey, Simon, let's start with the history of Dispa.
Yeah, sure. Dispa, as you may or may not know, is a unique and patented product manufactured by 3A Composites here in Europe, in Germany at the moment. It's a product that we essentially added to our portfolio of rigid sheets, recognizing more than anything that there will be a change in the material usages within large retailers and things like that, as sustainability becomes more and more of a factor for them. So we produce a lot of foam-centered display boards out of the factory in Osnabrück. Over here we have two strong brands in the name of Kappa and Foamex, both of them which of course is a paper liner with, in this case, a polyurethane core. And the problems of, as we know with foam boards, is the disposal of them at the end of life. So Dispa has been introduced and invented to give us an alternative rigid sheet that is 100% fiber-based and paper-based. So that's the history, that's the story behind it, and yeah, it continues to grow successfully.
Nice, yeah, it does for sure. All right, let's get into some of the great qualities on Dispa, like lay flat qualities.
The board, I think we do have a, yeah, thank you. Thanks, Chris. The core of the material is part of its unique setup. So you can see here that we have a core that is completely non-directional. So in every direction, it has the same characteristics. Now, this gives us some wonderful resistance to the normal short grain, long grain problems that you have with most fiber-based boards. So any direction has the same performance characteristics. But also, if you look at that core again, you can see that it allows moisture and air to penetrate to the sheet evenly as well. So once it's been stabilized within its environment, whether that's to be printed or when it's in its final destinations within a store environment, its rigidity and its flatness is pretty much guaranteed.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, like here in the States, we talked about this earlier this week. You know, our Dispa's main competition is Convert board, and it very much like a corrugated as a unidirectional channel through it, or the corrugation, so it doesn't allow air flow through every direction. So it makes it not only a more stable product, but it also makes it a better print surface as well.
Yeah, and printability of the board is fantastic. You know, it's a clay coated liner. It's extremely bright white. So with obviously a lot of the inks these days being UV water based, where color of the ink is not as strong as perhaps the old days of solvent and screen, the board lends itself well to that technology and gives good print results.
It does, absolutely. I've had the pleasure of seeing some of it printed in Portland, and amazing results. And one of the things I tell my customers is, you know, because it's a question I get on color calibration, you know, they may be, oh, I don't want to try a new product because now I got to color calibrate it. I tell them to use the foam core calibration because they both have the same white point and the clay coated paper facers.
Yeah, and it gives it a great advantage and a great results every time. So the applications and usage of the board is brilliant. perhaps what people don't realize is how easy it is to convert it into a three-dimensional format as well. So we've spent a lot of time working with people like Kongsbergs and Zunds with these cutting table technologies to come up with solutions, not just in cutting, but also in creasing to give 90-degree edges and things like that. So three-dimensional applications are now being utilized more and more. We did a very nice application with a large retailer, European-based, but I think already growing their presence in America with Lidl, where they wanted to introduce for us it's 2 meter, but let's say 6 foot distancing information, but they wanted it to stand out, so they actually made it into like a three-dimensional triangle that fitted over the top of the aisles and rows, so that it was obviously very evident to see and get the message across. Now that was achieved by using a creasing roller. It's a slightly different shape to a normal creasing roller that you would use with a corrugated board, because we've got a 5-layer paper here, so it has to be a little bit slightly wider to ensure that we get a very defined and sharp edge without any cracking. But it works very well.
Nice. Now let me ask you
this, Michael. Sorry to interrupt here, but I was going to put those pictures up real quick. If you have you could give me a moment.
Sure. While you're doing that, I'm going to ask kind of this led me into a question for Simon. Now I know you can do the V cut in the back and use that as the full, and you've got the scoring wheel. Does one perform better than the other?
Aesthetically, when you have the creasing roller, you get a more defined 90 degrees. So you get almost like an edge. So you can see here, as opposed to it coming to a very sharp point, you get this nice, what I call defined 90-degree edge, which you can only achieve really with the creasing roller.
Okay. And the V-groove I'm talking about, well, once the screen comes back in, I can show that. But that's that right there is the creasing wheel that 3A and Zund work together to create, and there is a part number that we can share with whoever wants it so that they can order it. And this is the V-groove I was talking about. With 45 allows you to crease and bend it, and either way it won't crack, whether you do the V-groove or the creasing roller.
And it comes down to aesthetics. It's whether you want that really sort of like bullnosy type edge or a sharp edge. It's purely down to the end customer, stroke designer, what they're looking to achieve.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. When Dispa hangs from a ceiling, any issues with it bowing or warping?
No, it's obviously it's a paper-based product, so humidity, moisture is always a factor when you're working with fiber-based materials. We take a very simple approach. If it's flat when it's installed and it starts to bow, it needs some time for it to equalize and stabilize in the change in humidity. It will happen. If it was flat to begin with, it will return to its flat state, and that just needs some time to, as I said, to establish itself or stabilize itself in the new environment that it sees itself in. In the same way, if a printer gets a pallet of material comes in and they open up the wrapping and the boards begin to bow, well, it's likely that it's come from a drier environment, a colder environment, for example, than the print shop. We always recommend waiting 24 hours for the boards to stabilize before you use them. But I think that's pretty much normal for any fiber-based material anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And, the other thing too, with regards to humidity, that I've noticed here is, and especially in the winter, even if you're a humid environment, everybody's got their heaters on, which dries things out. Therefore, it dries out the Dispa, and that it doesn't warp or anything per se, but it makes it harder on blades, because now the paper is a little more, almost more like sandpaper, so it dulls your blades much faster. and you've got to change your blades a little more frequently.
Yeah, no, totally right. And as I said, always a recommendation is just leave it in your print shops for 24 hours with the wrapping off, and then you'll find the performance, the speed of conversion, print, etc., will increase.
Yeah, exactly. And even with printing, I know you've seen it printed. I have too, and you know, printing two-sided is no different than printing anything two-sided that I've noticed.
No, absolutely correct. You know, it's the usual thing. If anything, you gain stability by printing both sides because you're equalizing the board. But if it doesn't need to have a two-sided print, well, you don't need to do it. But if it's got a hanging board with two-sided print, no problems whatsoever.
Yeah. Let's talk about one. This is a good one, I think, for distribution and for printers, but best storage practices.
It's paper. Your big thing to avoid is a buildup of or excessive humidity, and I mean excessive from both sides of the spectrum, too dry, too wet. You will run into some problems if your environment is not pretty good. You know, we have seen pallets stored by doors which are opening and closing all the time, and then when the material comes to be used, problems occur. It's just a little bit of better housekeeping will improve the performance of the board.
Yeah. Is there a shelf life on Dispa?
No shelf life at all. No, it's stable. The bonding is a PVA adhesive, so it's a water-based adhesive. But if the environment is pretty much controlled, then the board is not going to fall to bits, if you like, in 6 months or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. That's good to know. Sustainability. So because it is paper based, and I don't know if you have blue bins like we do here that indicate recyclability, but print or no print, throw it right in the blue bin when you're done with it, correct?
Yeah, and obviously we see other so-called green polymers in the market, and people talk about things like fluted polypropylene as being a product that's easy to recycle. Well, that's all very well and good if you can identify what is polypropylene, what is polyethylene, PVCs, etc., etc. Most retail environments, they'll have a bin for plastic and a bin for paper, and paper can be cardboard or any fiber-based material. Dispa is very easy to identify. It is an FSC paper-based product or fiber-based product. Just stick it in your blue bin, and then there is no cross-contamination with other polymers or anything like that. And I don't know what it's like in the US, but at this moment in time, pulp has price. So you actually get money for selling your tonnage of paper as opposed to polymer, which often carries a charge because it either gets incinerated or dare I say, just ends up in landfill. And that's the problem with polymer-based products.
Yeah, exactly. And let's talk about, you brought up FSC certification. What does that mean?
FSC has pretty much, I'm a bit of a cynic really, because I think they've kind of monopolized the whole sort of environment or the agenda on paper, but essentially it's the chain of custody. It's how and where the pulp has been sourced, who's converting it, people like us who then convert it into another format, as in a sheet, through the distribution channel, all the way through to the printer themselves. This chain of custody proves and assures that the material has come from a farmed source, is being treated and used in the right way, and ultimately then can go back into recycling and start to the degree to cycle again. Obviously, Dispa, we don't utilize recycled products in it. You know, the beauty of the product is its whiteness and its brightness, and at the moment, that's 100% virgin, but completely FSC.
Right. Yeah. So, which means the trees we're getting are sustainable. It's a tree farm. We're not going out and cutting forests.
Yeah. There's no orangutans losing their trees to make this, but that's for sure.
Right. That's good. That's always good to hear. Let's see. So what applications, we had talked earlier this week, and you had mentioned that you were using Dispa there in the UK, and you were even replacing 4X, and for everybody who doesn't know what 4X is, that's equivalent to Sintra here in the US in some applications. Can you talk about how and when you might use Dispa to replace PVC or other polymer-based materials?
Yeah, I think probably like maybe in the US as well, there's a lot of habit in material usage within the industry. The foam PVC is commonly referred to over here as Foamex. That's Foamex. That's in the UK, because that was the first brand that hit the UK market. It's our brand. It was Forex's first name in the UK. And you'll see printers and you'll hear end customers basically say, stick it on a bit of 3mm Foamex, as in 3mm foam PVC. Now, a lot of those applications are relatively short term. It might be campaigns for Christmas and things like that. In a lot of instances, they could be going into a frame, or they could just be stuck on the wall. Now, Dispa will do all of that. You know, the limitations with Dispa, and we'll come on to new products shortly, but the limitations with Dispa is it's an internal board. So as long as there's no excessive moisture or water or anything like that going onto the board, then Dispa can be utilized in many areas where Sintra 3mm, Forex 3mm can be done.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely very helpful.
And one of the things that we always get with a polymer-based material is expansion and contraction due to the fact that it's a PVC. So in some instances, Dispa will be a more stable solution than a foam PVC board, which, as we know, right, moves sort of 6mm over 100 degrees C. So it has quite a bit of movement on it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then again, back to what you were saying, PVC is not recyclable. You know, that's going into the landfill. With this, when you're done with it, throw it right in the blue bin. Something we get asked here in the US, and I know this is a big US thing, but that's black or color combinations of white, black, black, white, black, white. I know black right now is not an option, but is that potentially a viable option in the future?
The product is evolving. As I said, very shortly, I'll introduce a couple of new members of the Dispa family to everybody. But it's the usual thing. If there is sufficient demand, and if we can find the right papers from you know, obviously the paper mills around Europe, then there shouldn't be any difference. There shouldn't be any reason why a black, white, black combination couldn't be made available. Okay.
Yeah, that's good to know.
And I saw a chat pop up about thickness, so I'll address that. When we built the line, we built it so that 5 layers was the maximum that we could put together, which gives us the 3.8mm, but it's been built with the intention to go thicker. It's this usual thing. We kind of have to sell what we've got now to be able to turn around to our parent company and say, would you mind spending another $1 million or so for building in some more stations? But the line has been built with the intention to go to 7 layers, 9 layers, that type of situation, which of course will end up as a thicker sheet.
Awesome. Good. Good to know. Good to know. And you kind of brought it up. Let's talk about some of the new Dispa line.
Yeah, we get strong feedback from the market for the product, and like all new products, you start off with one, and then if it's successful, which it has been, we want to add to the range and fulfill various areas where one Dispa can't do. So Dispa, as you know, is 3.8mm, is a 5-layer paper, and that's fantastic for a lot of applications. But we certainly find that there is a number of retailers using what we call frames, profiles, where a 3mm board is the maximum they can work with. So we have now a 2.4mm board, which obviously will fit nicely into a 3mm profile. So instead of being 5 layers, it's only 3 layers. So we still have good rigidity and stiffness. Of course, it's not as good as the 5-layer board when you take out two layers, you have to lose some of those attributes. But as I said, if it's going into a frame or into a profile, then it's perfect for it. So we were in the process of just coming out of summer shutdown in Osnabrück. So these boards will start coming into our inventory during the month of September. And then of course, as quickly as our colleagues in America want to start filling a few containers available in the US as well. But it's still a very nice board. It's still a very rigid board, and certainly comparable to things like foam sensor display boards. But as I said, more akin to going into a profile or a frame where a thinner sheet is required.
Okay.
And then one that really gets me very excited is what we call Dispa Outdoor. So this is a board that is intended to be utilised for short-term external campaigns when moisture will be a factor. And that could also be internal as well. So if there's areas within an interior where you know it's going to be quite wet and quite damp, then the Dispa Outdoor can also be utilised indoor. So you can see that the liner is a slightly different shade. It's a little bit yellower, but obviously this is part of its weathering attributes. And the core as well, as you can see, the core is a different liner as well. So this gives us a different appearance, but of course we're now putting this into a situation where it can be utilised short-term externally. So we have the question, of course, well, how long? But we don't know what the weather's going to be like. So in our mind, we very much say, well, look, this is campaign work. You know, you've got Labor Day coming up, and then you've got Thanksgiving and Black Friday and things like that, where stores or restaurants or things like and so forth, where they want to do a short-term campaign, stick it outside for a week or so forth. And I think Dispa Outdoor will work very well in that environment. And it competes very well then against boards like fluted polypropylene, which traditionally gets used for those short-term applications. And we discussed earlier on how difficult it is to move polymer products into the recycling chain, whereas again here we have a very nice paper-based material that will outdoors. Oh, sorry.
Up a little bit. Yeah.
And I'm not 100% sure what H stakes are, I'm afraid.
So like campaign signage and whatnot that you get here with the fluted polypropylene, it's got two wires that go up vertically into the flutes, and the other two on the bottom side get stuck into the ground.
That I'm not sure, because of course, you know, we're not running through the flutes on this one, so I would guess not. But obviously samples and materials coming across the US, so it'll be probably a try and see more than for me to make a guess, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And just like here in the Pacific Northwest, very similar climate to the UK, very wet. You know, I would probably get a sample myself and put it in my backyard for like a week on a rainy day just to see how it holds up, so that way I can talk about it in my area correctly.
And Bob, yes, the answer is yes. It keeps its FSC, it keeps its sustainability. It's part of its story. So we're not introducing something under the Dispa name that will not act in the same ways as standard Dispa. So it keeps its credentials. So
it's still a fiber-based product that can go right in the blue bin when it's all done.
You got it, yeah.
Awesome. That's great. And isn't there a third one as well?
There is, but I haven't got a sample. These are, it hasn't, I think I had one, but I've lost it or it's gone elsewhere. But we also have a Dispa canvas. So it's a two-sided paper canvas effect on both sides. So this is for more high-end, more prestigious campaign work, like with your stronger brands and things like that, but also for printers who are doing stuff into what we call the sort of online print world, where people want a nice picture. My colleague Egon in Belgium, he has a sample, so if it's okay with everybody, he can flick himself on and show a sample.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely. Give me 1 second to get his video up and let him share his screen. Egon, hold on for me for just a moment. There you go. Let's see. Should be asking you to start your video. There he is. We'll give you some volume too. There you go.
Hold it a little closer to your camera there. There you go.
It's quite difficult to pick up the effect, but it looks canvas. It's yeah.
If I
It's
can,
not one of the easiest ones to show.
Give me a second.
Spotlight this video here for a second.
It needs to be cross-lit. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, that's
And
cool.
again, this can be routed and folded to produce a picture box, essentially. So, you know, a framed picture. And we've shown it to a couple of online print companies in the UK, and they're quite excited about it and waiting for some materials to do some trials, and most likely will add it to their portfolio of substrates on their online portals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that looks really good. It looks similar to the foam core canvas product that we have here. All right, I think the other thing I wanted to bring up, samples. We've got some, I think they're 7x7 samples. They've got a V groove in the back. These can be ordered from our website, or talk to your local rep, or distribution. The other thing too that I was asked to bring up is the fact that we do have Dispa in cartons, and it's 20 sheets for a 4x8 carton and 13 sheets for a 5x10. Part of the reason for how little the quantity is because of the weight. It is a very heavy product.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we have a couple more minutes. I figure we can field a few questions. We had quite a list going on the side here. Let's see if there's anything we didn't cover. I believe you spoke to Bob's question about outdoor Dispa being recyclable.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
but it is recyclable.
fantastic. There was a question about the projected square foot cost differential from Centra. That would probably be better answered by your sales rep. So if you could get in touch with them, and that one can be discussed on a one-on-one basis, because there's a lot, there's a lot of factors involved with that. As far as quantity, how much you want, all those fun things. So we want to make sure that we're giving you an accurate number on that. And there was a question from Corey. He said, when might the thicker sizes come out?
It's, as I said, we have to convince Schweiter to spend more money, and the only way we can do that is having good results with the current Dispa range, which is now 4 boards. I think our organization, we never miss an opportunity to grow and to sell more. So if we can do a good job on these products, then it can be accelerated quite quickly. The line's built; it's available to make more, to make it thicker. It's just the investments in putting in the new lines that sort of roll the material and create the creasing. It's big bucks, basically.
Yeah,
understandable. Sure.
I just saw Tony's question come up about the Zoom part number. Tony, I'll shoot you an email with that.
Perfect. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's C305. Don't quote me on that, but I was just looking at it a minute ago. But yeah, just look for that email from Chris. All right, any other questions? We're right at our time. All right, there we go.
Oh, we got one. Is it recommended for standalone displays?
I assume that's something we probably can at schools call floor standing display units. So where it's been 3-dimensionally formed into shapes. Yeah. Yeah. We've had some small success on higher brand value products. So corrugated, of course, is significantly cheaper than Dispa. So for a tin of beans, you probably wouldn't use Dispa. But if you have a nice application for Christmas or something like that, cosmetic or whatever, where you want the FSDU to be part of the story, then Dispa is great. And obviously with the V-grooving and the tracing roller, it's perfectly feasible to engineer it.
Yeah, with doing that, what about if you were to put some shelves so you could put product on the shelves? What would you have to do? Double or triple up the shelf to hold a little weight?
Again, it's application specific, you know, depending on what you're putting on there. Of course, if you're putting something like, I don't know, bottles of wine or something like that, you probably wouldn't use the Dispa for the shelving. You might just use it as the outside and things like that, because the limitations of the product is there. But yeah, we can work with you. We've got engineers over in Europe that can advise. If not, quite often it's do it yourself and see how you get on.
Well, okay, good to know. And it looks like somebody else had a question, which is a pretty easy one. Can you drag knife it? You can. Absolutely. If you're doing a contour cut, my recommendation is using a oscillating or a vibrating knife. So that way you get a clean cut. So, and it can be die cut as well.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and guillotine. Of course, when you're applying pressure, you might get a little bit of a bevel on the edge, you know, a little bit of a pillow effect because you've got the 5 layers, but there's no reason why it can't be converted that way as well.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, gentlemen, we are at time. I want to say thank you to everyone for, number one, your patience in us getting started today, but a special thank you to Simon for joining us and spending part of his evening with us. Any final remarks before we close out, Simon?
No, just great to see everybody, and hopefully everybody's safe and staying safe during these very strange times. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Chris, you as well?
Yeah, pretty much what Simon said. I'm glad everybody made it. I'm glad Simon was able to jump on with us on this, especially with a big time difference. And hopefully now he can relax and enjoy his evening, and hope everybody stays safe. Wear your mask.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you. And if there's any other information on Dispa that you'd like to have, if you could avail yourself to our website, which is 3acompositesusa.com. And just go under graphic display and you'll see the products listed under products. Click on Dispa and there's a wealth of information there. And then also for some short videos on a few different things about Dispa, you can go to our YouTube page, just youtube.com, and then search 3A Composites Americas. And you can see the previous videos to this one. This video will be up soon. And then there's a section all about Dispa, as well as about 4 or 5 really quick commercial length videos that you can avail yourself to as well. Other than that, please contact us with any questions that you may have, your sales manager, or shoot an email my way, or your customer service rep, and we'll be happy to field questions and get more information to you about Dispa or any product for that matter. Other than that, thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you again next month. Take care now.
Bye now. Bye-bye.